Hi, this is Alex from Groovy Entertainment. Today we got another book and record to play for you. Today's book is 2010, The Year We Made Contact, from 1984. So let's get started.
This is your 2010 read-along book. Every time you hear this sound, it means it's time to turn the page in your storybook. Now, if you are ready, we will start the story of 2010, the year we made contact. Don't forget to turn the page every time you hear the sound. It had been 9 years since the mysterious disappearance of Commander David Bowman on the ill-fated journey of the spaceship Discovery to Jupiter. Many questions had remained unanswered. Was Bowman really dead? Why had Hal, the talking and thinking computer on board, malfunctioned, killing the other 4 crew members? And what secrets lay behind the strange black monolith that Bowman had reported hovering near Jupiter? To find out what went wrong, a new spacecraft, Discovery 2, was being built to travel to Jupiter and find out what had happened to Discovery 1 and to explore the monolith. But Discovery 2 would not be finished for several years. Heywood Floyd, the world-famous astronomer and planner of the Discovery 1 mission, would be heading this new mission. Floyd was working at an observatory in New Mexico when his close friend, Dmitry Mossage, Russia's leading astronomer, came to him with startling news.
Heywood, I just had word that our spaceship Leonov will be ready to leave for Jupiter in 3 months. Even though our 2 countries are close to war, we scientists should work together. So I am offering you and your crew a chance to join our mission. We admit that we do not know how to work your HAL 9000 computer. And after all, Discovery is American property.
That's good of you and your government, Dmitri,
Said Floyd.
but my government would prefer that we go alone on Discovery 2.
At about the time that the Leonov was finished, Floyd's calculations revealed some startling data. Discovery 1 was losing its orbit around Jupiter and would crash into Io, one of Jupiter's moons, before Discovery 2 could rescue it. So, plans were made immediately for a joint Russian and American crew to head for Jupiter. With Floyd were Dr. Chandra, the inventor of HAL, and Dr. Walter Kurnow, the chief engineer of both Discovery ships. There were 6 Russian cosmonauts and scientists in the Leonov's crew, plus their woman commander, Captain Tanya Kirvuk. As the Leonov left Earth from the previous nuclear war, both the Americans and Russians wondered if there would be an Earth to return to. Once the Leonov's rocket had put it on its course to Jupiter, the 3 Americans entered the medical bay. The Russian doctor gave them an injection, which put them into a deep sleep. They would be awakened a year later as the ship approached Jupiter. However, 11 months later, Floyd found himself slowly awakening.
Are we there yet?
He asked.
No,
Replied Captain Kirvuk.
we have uncovered some strange readings coming from Europa, one of Jupiter's moons.
In the wardroom, Floyd sat around a table with the Russians, examining the data. All eyes were on him as he announced,
If this data is correct, then there is something down on Europa. And that something is life.
The data is correct.
confirmed one of the Russian scientists.
In that case, we will send down a probe.
Announced Captain Kirvuk. The crew gathered around the computer screens to watch the probe descend. Its cameras began to focus on a large gray-green mass inside one of the ice craters. At that moment, a giant bolt of lightning from Europa raced past the Leonov, heading toward Jupiter.
The probe has been destroyed.
Gasped Officer Orlov.
What a tragic accident.
Cried Kirvuk. Floyd shook his head.
It was not an accident. It's a warning. A warning for us to stay away from Europa.
But they had to press on. So, the Leonov continued into orbit around Jupiter, where they sighted a darkened Discovery, tumbling end over end like a cheerleader's baton. Hanging suspended over it, like a giant ceiling in space, was a huge black monolith over 1 mile long. Dr. Kernow and Russian scientist Maxim Brelovsky left the Leonov and, with handheld thrusters, propelled themselves through space toward Discovery. Once inside the ship, they saw it was covered with yellow sulfur dust and frost. Although the atomic engines had shut down automatically years ago, Kernow managed to restart them and stop Discovery's tumbling. Next, the crew built a bridge between the two ships for easy passage, back and forth. Soon, Dr. Chandra was spending hours in the Discovery, reprogramming HAL. Captain Kirbook decided to send Brelovsky out again, this time in a work pod to investigate the surface of the giant monolith. Dr. Floyd argued that it would be wiser to send an unmanned probe.
That's not a piece of junk out there. It has a purpose. And we don't know what that purpose is.
While this argument was taking place between Floyd and Kirbook in space, arguments between their two governments on Earth were getting angrier. War was getting closer and closer. As Brelovsky skimmed across the surface of the monolith in his work pod, something strange happened. Millions of stars appeared just beneath the surface of the monolith, and a giant bolt of energy rushed from it. The energy was so strong that it destroyed the work pod and Brelovsky along with it. No one would ever know that the bolt of energy was David Bowman, the astronaut who had been transformed into another form by the alien powers behind the monolith. David was speeding toward Earth to visit his wife and mother and to tell them that something wonderful was going to happen very soon. Chandra finally reprogrammed HAL. The computer had no memory of why the Discovery mission had failed, nor of ever having killed any of the crew. However, HAL easily accepted his new assignment of returning Discovery to Earth. While the Leonov's crew was still mourning Brelovsky's death, troubling news came from Earth. War had been declared between America and Russia. Both governments immediately sent orders to their crews to separate, cut all radio contact, and return home as soon as possible. Although both crews regretted what was happening, they obeyed their orders. The Americans left the Leonov and boarded the Discovery. Once both ships were sealed, the bridge between them was blown off. Dr. Floyd was alone on watch on the bridge of Discovery, talking to Hal, when the computer told him to turn around. There stood David Bowman. Bowman spoke.
Dr. Floyd, I am here to give you a warning. You must leave here today. It is dangerous to remain.
But why?
Floyd asked. Bowman simply answered,
Something wonderful is going to happen.
Then he disappeared. Floyd immediately suited up and crossed to the Leonov. He told Kirbook that they had been warned to leave now.
Floyd, have you gone crazy? Neither ship has enough fuel to get back to Earth if we don't wait for the right launch window to boost us.
Tanya, if you won't take that warning seriously, look outside the window.
The monolith! It's gone! You're right about the monolith.
If they were to leave in 2 days, emergency plans would have to be made. Floyd had an idea.
We can use the two ships together The Discovery can serve as the booster rocket after we link it together with Leonov. Then when Discovery's fuel is used up, we fire the Leonov's engines and release Discovery. That will give us enough speed and fuel to return to Earth. But the one important question is, can Hal be trusted? After all, it will be up to Hal to fire Discovery's rockets at the exact moment, or we won't be able to pull away from Jupiter's gravity.
We have no choice,
said Dr. Chandra.
I'll have to convince him to do it.
The next day, a huge black spot appeared on Jupiter. As the hours went by, it grew bigger and bigger, doubling its size every 2 hours.
That black spot is made up of millions of monoliths,
explained Floyd.
They're eating up the planet.
Cried Kirbook.
Jupiter is going to explode.
But 10 minutes before Hal was to fire Discovery's engines, he calmly refused.
I think we should stay and investigate the black spot.
You must fire the engines or we'll be killed. I'll stay with you, Hal, if you want me to.
No, Dr. Chandra,
replied Hal.
I trust you. You must rejoin your crew.
Dr. Chandra returned to the Leonov, and Hal fired the engine. The Leonov escaped the shock waves just as Jupiter exploded and became a shining new white star. At that moment, David Bowman entered the Discovery for the last time. Hal was happy to see his former commander and gladly sent to Earth Bowman's message from the alien forces who were responsible for the monolith.
All these worlds are yours, except Europa. Attempt no landing there. Use them together. Use them in peace. Use them in
After Bowman was gone,
Use them
Hal
in peace.
kept sending the messages many times as he could
Use them
before the
in
shock
peace.
waves reached Discovery,
Use them.
destroying it and Hal with it. As the Leonov sped safely back to Earth, Dr. Floyd announced to the crew,
I now understand what Commander Bowman meant when he said something wonderful is going to happen. That something wonderful is life beginning on Europa. Their planet is freezing. The alien forces behind the monoliths have given Europa a new sun so it can become more like our Earth, with land and oceans. The entire solar system has been changed.
At that moment, Captain Kirbook interrupted with news.
We've just had a transmission from Earth. The war between Russia and America is over.
History will record the day that the President of the United States and the Premier of Russia looked out of their windows and saw the new distant sun in the sky. They had received Hal's message, and perhaps they had learned something. They learned that we do not own this world we live on. We are only allowed to live here. They also learned that life was beginning on that new planet, and that if they did not land there and disrupt that new life, those aliens might one day be their friends.
So that was 2010, the year we made contact, from 1984. So if you like, subscribe, share, and comment, and have a groovy day. And our next book will be Knight Rider, Target for Revenge.